The Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls in the past 4 years, and in the 2 years they didn't win the Super Bowl, they lost to the Tom Brady-led Bucks, and they lost in the AFC Championship game to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Chiefs' sustained success has not happened by accident, and in today's video, we're going to break down how the Chiefs have positioned themselves into not just having a year or two here and there, as they've been to 5 consecutive AFC Championship games, and how this has not happened by accident. And believe it or not, the answer is not just because they have Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, a 2-time MVP winning quarterback plays a huge part in their success, and they wouldn't be here without him, but football is a team game, and their success is reflective of that. And this goes back a couple of years, and there is a lot to dive into in today's video, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by taking a look at why the Chiefs are successful, as in not just Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy. And the NFL draft is less than a week away at the time of this video release, and the Chiefs' ability to continuously get hits is a big reason why they are good year in and year out. And what's crazy about the Chiefs' success from a draft standpoint is they're not drafting in the top 5 or 10 picks every single year like some other teams are. Because they've been to 5 straight AFC Championship games, most of the time their first pick of the draft is usually in the late 20s area, with Trent McDuffie being an exception in 2022 as he was selected number 21 overall. And even with McDuffie, they traded up to get him. Do the Chiefs hit on every single draft pick? No, and no team does, to be clear. But taking a look back at their 2021 and 2022 drafts, and it's pretty clear why they are going to be here, or seriously competing that is, for a very long time. In 2021, they selected offensive lineman Creed Humphrey late in the second round, and 2 years later, he has a second-team All-Pro to his name, as well as being named a Pro Bowler in 2022. And what both general manager Brett Veach and Andy Reid do not get a lot of credit for, and the scouting team for that matter too, is finding players later in the draft that are not only okay, but can become high-level players for the team. They also selected guard Trey Smith in the 6th round in 2021, who has started 33 games for them since being drafted. And I know you may be thinking, especially with Trey, for those that remember his draft process, Trey was roughly a second-round prospect but fell due to injury concerns during the 2021 draft. And I realize anybody could have drafted him, and hell, teams certainly wish they would have drafted him now a few years later, but credit Kansas City for spending a 6th-round pick on Trey Smith in this situation. And for any player that starts to fall like Trey did in 2021, I am always an advocate for spending a 5th or 6th round pick on a player even if there is injury concerns for them, because the potential far outweighs the risk. If you draft a player in the 6th round that can't play or simply isn't good, it happens, and it's a 6th round pick. But if you have the chance to take a player who was a top 40 or 50 player in the class at 226th overall like the Chiefs did, I mean, guys, that's about as low of a risk as you're ever going to find. And the Chiefs got 2 starters on the offensive line for the foreseeable future in one draft, which is almost unheard of. They also drafted linebacker Nick Bolton, who has been a very good player over the first 2 years of his career and had 180 tackles in 2022. They did not have a first-round pick in the 2021 draft due to trading for offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr., who is now a member of the Cincinnati Bengals, and swapped their first-round pick with a second-round pick from the Ravens, yet they still came out of the 2021 draft with 3 starters. And if you want to criticize the Chiefs draft for the Orlando Brown trade and not bringing him back, despite giving up a first-round pick just 2 years ago, remember, they offered him a big contract prior to the 2022 season, and he declined because he wanted to bet on himself. And Orlando turned down a 6-year, $139 million deal that included a $30 million signing bonus, only to sign a 4-year, $64 million deal with Cincinnati after the 2022 season. So if you were wondering where the Chiefs' 2021 first-round pick went and why Nick Bolton was their first pick at number 58 overall, this is why. And for as impressive as their 2021 draft class was, all things considered at least, I think their 2022 class was even more impressive. They had 2 first-round picks, as they of course had their own, then had an additional first from the Tyreek Hill trade. And it appears they hit on both first-round picks with the aforementioned McDuffie and pass rusher George Karlaftis. Unless Trent McDuffie has a year where he has 5 or 6 interceptions or has an absolutely insane year in coverage, he's not going to get talked about a lot, which isn't anybody's fault. Trent is on a team where, hell, even 4-time All-Pro Chris Jones doesn't get talked about nearly as much as he should because of the guys on the offensive side of the ball. And for Trent, he also won't get talked about a lot because of the guys in his draft class like Sauce Gardner and like Tariq Woolen. But very quietly, he, as in Trent, had the 3rd highest coverage grade of any rookie corner in 2022 per PFF, behind Sauce and Jack Jones of the Patriots. The play you probably remember most from Trent's rookie season, ironically after praising him, was the 45-yard touchdown he allowed to A.J. Brown in the Super Bowl. And what has to be remembered is a couple of things. The Chiefs trusted him to be out there against A.J., and not only that, he was in the right position and it was a great play by A.J. Trent simply lost the ball, and remember, both A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are each paid a hefty chunk of change to make plays, especially Jalen with the recent contract extension. But Trent had a 7-game stretch from Week 11 through Week 17. When targeted, he didn't allow more than 40 yards in a single game. And it's very easy to get excited about George Karlaftis' future, as he finished 2nd in pressures among all rookies, as he had 48, which was behind only Aiden Hutchinson of the Lions, who is probably going to be a double-digit sack player for Detroit next year. Karlaftis had 48 pressures in 2022 and had 6 sacks at just 21 years old. With another year to focus on getting bigger, faster, and stronger, well, needless to say, I am all in on Karlaftis in 2023. And all of this comes full circle as to why the Chiefs have been successful over the past few years, and why they will continue to be successful. They managed to get hits in the draft. They don't always need to be the grand slams out of the park like Patrick Mahomes was, but hitting doubles like they did with McDuffie and George will continue to not only keep them in games, but also win games when it matters. And the Chiefs' 2022 class didn't stop there, as linebacker Leo Chenal was one of my favorite prospects in the 2022 draft, and he started 8 games for them last year as he racked up 35 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and a sack in his rookie season. I think he can be a starter for them for several years, and the Chiefs also had one of the biggest steals in the entire 2022 draft in 7th round running back Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco finished his rookie year with nearly 1,000 total yards of offense, and also added 76 rushing yards and a touchdown in the Chiefs' Super Bowl win over the Eagles. They had 2 second-round picks due to the Tyreek Hill trade, and spending a second-round pick on Sky Moore will prove to be beneficial in the long run. Admittedly, I was a little disappointed with Sky in his rookie year, as he hauled in just 22 passes for 250 yards, but he did have a touchdown in the Super Bowl in the second half. And thinking out loud for a minute, even if Sky does not pan out, the Chiefs still had a very solid draft class, as they look to have 2 good starters in McDuffie and Karlaftis, along with a running back who should shoulder the load for the next few years in Isaiah Pacheco, and a starting linebacker too. And there were a lot of doubters with the Chiefs last year when they made the big Tyreek Hill trade. And doubters, to be clear, is kind of tongue-in-cheek because people still thought they were going to be a good football team, but a lot of people didn't think they'd win the Super Bowl because of the Tyreek trade and how much impact he has on the offense. And I understand the thought process there, but the Chiefs organization typically doesn't make brash decisions or extremely overreactive decisions, and they've been successful over the past few years due in part to this. And when this team has a problem, they make sure to address it, and I don't think there's a better example of how a team's season ended one year and how to address the problem the next offseason the way the Chiefs did from 2020 to 2021. It was clear the Chiefs were outmatched from a physicality standpoint in Super Bowl 55 against the Bucs, as a 31-9 loss for anybody, let alone the Chiefs, does not happen by accident. And Pat Mahomes threw the ball 49 times during this game, and out of those 49 times he threw the ball, he was under pressure for 26 of those attempts, and while under pressure, he completed just 9 of 26 passes for 78 yards along with an interception. Patrick had an abnormally bad game for him, and it wasn't due to him not being able to make plays or him not being big enough for the moment or anything like that. The Chiefs' offensive line simply did not stand a chance. And not only did they draft both Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the 2021 NFL Draft, they also signed Pro Bowl guard Joe Thuney to a 5-year, $80 million deal. And I think the Super Bowl loss to the Bucs in a lot of ways was beneficial for this franchise. Because once they kind of fully pulled back the curtains, they saw how ugly it can get, and they wanted to ensure that they would never get beaten this manner again. That's also not to say they're unbeatable, because nobody is, and Kansas City over the past 2 years has had some uncharacteristically bad losses, like the Week 7 loss in 2021 to Tennessee, in which they lost 27-3 on the road in Nashville, and the inexplicable loss to Indy of all teams in 2022, in which they lost 20-17. The Chiefs do have who I think we can all agree on is the best quarterback in football, but the reason they are successful is not just because of Patrick. Their second leading receiver in 2022 was Juju Smith-Schuster, who, after a couple of down years in Pittsburgh due to a variety of reasons such as Duck Hodges being the quarterback one year, or injuries, or an offense that couldn't throw the ball down the field because of how poor the offensive line play was, he came in and had over 900 yards in his only year with the team. He was offered a 3-year, $33 million deal in free agency by the Patriots, and poof, he's gone. But they'll replace Juju this fall just fine. Whether Kadarius Toney steps up, who they seem to be very excited about, or maybe even a receiver early in the 2023 NFL Draft. Because Travis Kelce is 33 and will turn 34 during the 2023 season, I do worry about him declining at some point, as age is undefeated. When will that decline happen is something none of us know the answer to, but I have no doubt the Chiefs will continue to be successful because they've given us no reason to think they won't be when faced with adversity. They lost a Super Bowl and lost in the AFC Championship game in back-to-back years, and proceeded to trade away arguably the most unique weapon in all of the NFL, only to prove the doubters wrong and win a Super Bowl by putting up 38 points on the biggest stage on one of the best defenses in the NFL. They also have 10 draft picks in the 2023 draft, and I do not expect them to use all 10, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see the Chiefs move up again in the draft, just like they did last year. It wouldn't surprise me to see them move up from 31 to the 22 to 23 area to trade up and get a Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnston. But one thing's for sure, they aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and they will more than be ready in 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed the summarization of the Kansas City Chiefs, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world and help the growth of the channel tremendously. My Twitter and Patreon links are in the description if you're interested in following, and until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.